Welcome to Millennial Money Minutes, where we tackle tough personal finance topics in 5 minutes or less. With your host, Grant from MillennialMoney.com and Matt from DistilledDollar.com. Hey everyone, we're super stoked today. We're going to talk with Elle Martinez. She is the founder and host of the Couple Money podcast and the website CoupleMoney.com. Matt and I have both had the fortune of being interviewed by Elle independently. You were actually the first podcast interview that I did for Millennial Money, Elle. So
really?
Shout out there. I really appreciate since your podcast episode, it's just been up. I mean, it's just, it started a ripple effect. It was the butterfly effect. So I really appreciate that. And that's why you emailed me. It's like, gotta have her on the podcast. So Elle, super stoked. Without further ado,
I'm so excited.
Yeah, tell us a little bit about Couple Money, who you are, and what we're going to chat about today.
Sure. So I'll give a very long story short, because I know you guys all about those money minutes. But I started Couple Money basically because I saw that there were some pretty good financial websites out there when we were starting off and trying to get our finances squared away, but I couldn't find something that addressed those unique, awkward, fun situations when you're married and you're working together on your money. And I kind of base it on this community idea. So of course I share our story, how we paid off, over $35,000 of debt, and we're working towards financial independence. And I was able to, work from home now, which is a great situation with 2 little ones. But there's strength in community. So people come in and I interview different people about their finances, working together, the good, the bad, the real, as I call it, because even if it is a great marriage and you guys really want this to succeed, it's 2 individuals trying to merge finances. So there's usually a hiccup somewhere, and there's usually a bump in the road that you have to overcome.
Yeah, that's great. One of the things I really like about listening to the different stories is the tone is great in terms of this is how we do it, and it's not suggesting one way or another, and it kind of goes back to what you were saying in terms of these are kind of those awkward, fun conversations. So have you learned a lot of big surprises in terms of how, from the community?
What's the key?
What have been your big takeaways?
Let's start this episode off with a bang. What's the key? What's the key to successfully talking about and then managing money in a couple?
Sure. So I will say this. I've interviewed couples that have gotten out of 6 figures of debt. I've interviewed couples that retired in their 30s. And this kind of motivated me with the book. It is, what are those key qualities, traits, habits that they have that make them able to achieve the goals that they've set out before them? And I will say the number one tip, let's just start off with a bang, is they have such a clear idea of what they're working towards. And that might sound obvious, but if I can give you guys an example, is that the typical couple say, yeah, well, we're, saving to pay bills, saving to retire, maybe early if we can. But when you ask them, what does that look like? They either don't have a clue, they don't have that clarity in there, or they're describing 2 totally different retirement plans. Yeah. And that, to me, just was mind-boggling because I'm thinking, okay, that seems obvious. But when I look back and when we started, that was something we didn't have firm in mind, which is what exactly are you working for? Yeah,
that's such a great takeaway. Being here in Chicago, the one analogy I heard was, the Sears Tower is very visible from far away, and it's, that should be the goal, is something that you can see, it's clear. You might not know all the details, and as you get closer, you might now, start to see the windows and how the structure looks, but you always had that clear vision, and it really helps out.
Yeah, exactly.
Let's go to the start here and talk about, I think with couples, they both have to be willing to be engaged, right? Because that's one of the challenging things. I've found the most challenging thing in talking with my own wife about money is, she doesn't want to talk about money very often, and I really have to wait for those moments when she does, instead of just being able to approach her at all times. And I'm cool with that. That's just the rhythm that we've gotten into. We're both engaged in it, but we kind of do it, the engagements on her terms. And, talk a little bit about, how can couples get themselves ready to even talk about money?
So this is definitely one of the reasons I wanted to write this book. It's basically a 4-week guide because I know a lot of couples are in the same situations like you, Grant.
That's great.
where
That's 4
I
weeks.
wouldn't say opposites attract, but we
Yeah.
seem to have just different rhythms. And it's a good thing in a marriage where you shore up each other's weaknesses, but it gets frustrating when you can't find a system that works for you. So I'm glad you know your wife's rhythm and you're working along with that. I will say, when it comes to, like, I'm just going to use retirement because that seems to be a big goal that a lot of couples want, is they plan for it completely the wrong way. And the reason I say this is one of the first questions when you're looking up retirement, people are Googling it, because you and I can see like the keywords that people type in to find you.
Yeah.
And it's like, how much do I need to retire?
Wow.
And that is not the first question you should start off with. The first question is, what does retirement mean to you? And for some couples, that does mean
Different
the
things.
traditional retirement, right? That where they're not working at all. I think for other couples, and I think more our age, is that they're really looking for options where they're financially independent, but if they decide to work or decide to pursue a project that matters to them, that they have that freedom. So that is the first step, because once you know where you're going, and I kind of give this analogy of, imagine you're planning an epic vacation. You usually talk about that destination in detail. Like you get excited
that's
about
a great
where
point.
you're
Yeah,
going, right?
That's a good one.
That's a
And
great
you kind
point.
of try to win each other over, right?
Yeah, I like that. That's a mindset shift. The thing is, what's making this possible? That's just perfect. Get your mind in this place, and everyone knows what it feels like to be excited and planning a vacation, and just to bring that, it doesn't actually take that long in some cases to plan a vacation.
Yeah.
You just have to stay focused on it. And it sounds like with couples, they can be as engaged, as much or as little as they want to, but really starting off and identifying your unique goals and where you want to go in the future is really important.
So what happens if there is a disagreement? What have you seen to be some of the things that work and don't work?
Oh man, we're getting deep here.
Yeah, let's do this. Well, when I designed this guide, I know that there's going to be times where you guys just don't exactly see immediately what your end goal is. So I suggest for couples, start with one goal that you can agree on. And an example I give is, maybe you can't agree on the type of retirement you guys need, but you need money for freedom. And that could be, to leave your job at the office, or maybe you want to stay there. Everyone has their own options. But then maybe, well, if I want to start my own business, I need to have the seed money. So if you can't go as far out as retirement, then let's come back, even if it's as close as a year. Let's see, what can you guys see so clearly that you are on the same page? Because there's two things that I think are important. I think you have to be engaged with your goal. You guys have to be on the same side. And two, when you see it so clearly, it's so much easier to plan backwards. And I know you guys think budgets suck.
Dude, budgets suck.
I follow. Yeah, but and that was actually, and I discussed this a little bit. Not all couples had a budget who like retired early or paid off the debt, but they saw it so clearly that they were able to move backwards and say, what do we need to do with our money? So I need couples to get on the same page on at least one goal that they're both excited about. I think when you establish a habit that you guys are on the same team and you see a win, even if it's a small win, that can build into something bigger. But I think for most couples, if you're willing to work together, you can usually find a compromise. And I'll give you an example. I love to travel, and my husband is more of a homebody. So what we've done is we've decided that he loves doing home projects and everything. That the house we got is
He's a
our
man's
home base.
man.
Yeah, so we're gonna have his man cave, and I'm gonna have my she shed. But we're also planning on trips. So we're both happy, but we're both also compromising. So I think for most couples you can, but I think just like anything else with finances, it's a habit that you have to develop. So start off with those wins that you can grab and then build from there.
So I've got to ask this question. It's my wife and I's 11-year anniversary. We started dating in college. We've only been married for less than a year, but our 11-year anniversary is this weekend. And I have to ask, you can't talk about couple money without talking about love. Tell us the best story that you've heard from any couple that you've talked to or interviewed about their finances.
Okay. Can I give you 3 stories that I thought were amazing that kind of tie together?
Yeah, we got time. This is Saturday. This is a Saturday morning right here.
Okay. So on my podcast, I interviewed different couples, and on paper, the stories would seem the same. So I'll give you an example of 3 couples that were all 6 figures in debt. Wow. And it was pretty bad. In one hand, it was just lifestyle inflation. They realized when they reached the max of all their credit cards that they had a problem. Then there was a couple where they knew they had to get out of debt, but they could not agree on the plan. The wife, and you might know her, Tony from Debt Free Divas, she discovered Dave Ramsey, and she was all over like, let's get Gazelle Intense and knock that out. And her husband's like, no. We have a life. We have little kids. I want to take advantage of this time. I do want to get out of debt. And then the last couple I remember was Travis, where they got to the point
Is this
where
student loan hero Travis?
I think
student loan planner
like
Travis?
Like enemy of debt.
Oh no,
you know?
millennial moolah, wrong Travis.
Okay, maybe it's something with Travis and money.
Yeah.
So if you're naming babies, don't name them Travis right now. But he basically was taking care of all the finances, and his wife knew that they were in debt. But the lifestyle inflation and everything got to the point they were $109,000 in debt, and their credit card payments alone were like $2,200 a month.
I hope they've got some really cool stuff.
Yeah,
I hope that credit card debt led to some great stuff. He better have an awesome man cave for that.
That
money.
was like that was the thing. It was like, oh, this obviously had to be like him gambling or doing something crazy, but he couldn't say no to his wife, and so all 3 of those couples got out of debt. And as of like last week, I was chatting with Travis and everything. They're all still together, but they had completely different ways of getting out of debt. Like with the first couple, they realized we're getting ridiculous with our spending. We have to cut this back. So they had a meeting with their kids. They sat down and they worked together and they knocked it out in a few years. And then we had with Tony, and this is the advice I give, is find where you agree. So they put together their family budget, and then what she did is with her personal spending, like eating out and so forth, she found ways to cut back and get Gazelle Intense with her personal spending, and that motivated him to crank it up a notch. And then so she wasn't trying to nag or pressure him. And then the last one was they realized that they needed to keep tabs on each other's money twice a week. And it's not like,
spent $109,000. I mean,
and people think, oh, it's obviously his fault. And if you talk to both of them, they admit it's them. They admit it was both of them. It was her feeling like, oh, well, I don't care about money, so I shouldn't check in on that. And that's the wrong attitude to have.
Did they have a Yeti cooler? Those things, I don't know who buys a $400 cooler. That's all I'm going to say. I know you live down south, and that's a thing.
Well, I was going to say, it's great that everyone had their own, their own unique, awesome approach. Because the second story sounds a lot like mine, where leading by example. Don't confront the issue. Maybe just focus on what you can, and then like you said, find those common goals. That we can all agree on.
I think with couples, isn't money the number one reason why people divorce? I think so, right?
Yeah, it's usually the number 1 or 2, and the stats keep changing, but I always see like 35 to like 44% where that is the number 1 issue. But like with those 3, I noticed like a couple common goals. Once they had, again, we talked about establishing what are you working towards, and then 2, they had kind of money check-ins or money dates. I love money dates. I talk about it on my podcast. I talk about it on my site.
Do you advocate wine at money dates?
I do, and we homebrew.
Oh, wow. That sounds great.
Because we have to step it up.
We're coming to your house, man. We only do this over homebrewed beer.
Yeah,
nice.
Great.
Yeah, actually, I did a podcast interview at FinCon, and I brought my homemade mead.
Oh, wow.
You ever had mead?
Yeah, I've had mead. Hell yeah. Can we get on that? Can we get in on that at this year's FinCon?
Oh, actually, I got to start now then because it takes a few months. So
Oh wow.
I'll make a special brew. Yeah,
That would
I
be
found the
nice.
Danish recipe that I love. It's like 400-year-old Viking.
Whoa.
What? It'll be oh man.
That sounds fascinating. Yeah.
Yeah, we'll talk. We'll have you back on the podcast.
We need to talk
drink
more
it
about
over
that.
mead. Yeah.
Yeah, but that's the idea. Is a lot of people approach finances very dry, and they look at the numbers, and people will say, "Okay, my goal is to get out of debt." But no, that's not your goal. What is your goal? Is what would your life be after the debt is gone?
I just think that a lot of times, money is such an emotional topic, and this is why I love the approach to your book. I love the approach to everything that you do. It's just such an emotionally charged topic that really couples coming together. It's about two people, two viewpoints coming together, but sometimes there's a lot of baggage that gets brought. I mean, if you're
Oh my gosh, yes.
getting into a relationship with someone who has a ton of debt, or you have a ton of debt, or you have different dreams, I mean, it's tough to be in a relationship with someone that has different dreams. And I think when you're forced to talk and deal with money, it forces you to not only look at yourself. I mean, this is the challenge. I always say, like, if you master your money, you can master your life. That's like the most trite saying ever. I feel like Tony Robbins said that. But it's true, the fact that you have to think about some tough things to come to terms with money. And I think that's probably one of the reasons why couples split. They just can't get on the same page. One might be a spender, the other's a saver. They might both be spenders. That's probably a pretty realistic scenario. I bet a lot of couples that save together stay together, honestly.
Oh, I need to put that on a T-shirt.
Oh
Yeah,
my
that
gosh,
sounds great.
I trademarked that just now. So sorry about that. I have someone that listens in and just trademarks the phrases I say. But back to the book. When is it available? Where can people get it? And what excited you most about writing a book? I'm in the process and sort of
Congrats
at the beginning
on that.
of it, and it's I'm cruising, but it's a wild ride so far.
There are a lot of 5:30 in the morning writes, Grant. I'll tell you that. Because I designed this because I have friends and family that are dealing with this, and one of the common hurdles, because there is a lot of good financial information out of there, but it seems like the number one thing is time. Like, couples don't have a lot of time to devote on it, and it's kind of a vicious cycle because they're busy paying the bills, they got to take care of this with family, they got to take care of this with work. So I wrote it in 4 weeks. So the first week is basically, where do you want to go and where are you? And a lot of this book is designed to be talked through. And what I mean by this is I have conversation starters in here. I have questions that you can bring up, because it's one thing they say, okay, guys, get on the same page with your money. But how do you open up with that? How do you kind of gently nudge your spouse to reveal, like, how much debt do you have? That way we can tackle this together. How much, assets do we have? What's our income? Because for some couples, those, as you mentioned, we come with baggage and it's hard to open up. And so I wanted to make this as simple as possible. So it's not just about right process, it's about the right order. So, the first week's about creating that roadmap. The second week is, once you know where you want to go and where you're starting with, let's come up with a spending plan. Now, it might be a budget, but at the very least, I encourage
I'm going to censor
couples-
that.
Yeah.
Yeah,
At the very
we're
least-
striking it off right now. No, just kidding.
No, but I will say this is interesting that not all couples have a budget, but all the couples I interviewed had a system. And a lot of it was automated, where their retirement contributions, savings, the bills were being paid, was a tremendous asset for them. And I will say, in the last year, this personally has been a huge help for us. I haven't actually talked about this on the blog quite much because I've been so busy, but I've had a lot of family dealing with some serious issues. I had a family member that's very close to us. I should say friend of the family technically, but he lost his battle with cancer, and he was in hospice. I have a close relative that's dealing with a chronic disease. So we've basically had to take time off of work. We've had to rearrange things, and it's crazy. But there was some peace of mind knowing that our money was taken care of. And I think a lot of couples are like that. I mean, God forbid, I hope they're not going through what we're going through. But life happens, and you're so busy doing things that you do enjoy, spending time with the people you love. it's wonderful knowing that your money by default is working towards the goals that you want to have it work towards.
Man, I think that's a really great point. A lot of it's about getting on the same page now so you can live your life later. And it's, it takes away a lot of stress. I'm so sorry to hear that about your family, friends. And you're right. It's about preparation. It's about security. It takes away anxiety. And honestly, when money's managed, I'm sure relationships are a lot stronger. I can definitely say that, my relationship with my wife, was stronger once we got our money and finances together. What about you, Matt?
Yeah, no, I would agree, and that brings it back to this great mission that you have with bringing the community together, because we all kind of go through these same trials, and it's the great thing about nowadays is that we can look online and see resources like this book that can really help out. So yeah, it sounds really great. So what was maybe like one of the bigger surprises that came out of writing the book that you discovered as you were kind of diving into the research or writing it out?
I think so. I was asking friends for feedback as I was writing this, and I was surprised because I think as personal finance writers, we have this idea of what we think are the best options. And then when I was writing this book, I said, you know what? I just need to write about how couples could have better options. If I could rewrite the subtitle, it'd be like how to build your wealth and have more options in your life. So when I designed this, I realized I had to kind of go back and change the outline. So the last week is basically once you get everything squared away with your main points, each couple has their own dream. They have their own happiness. It could be starting a family, buying a house, starting a business, retiring early, or traveling more. I ended up with that. Like the fourth week is called Choose Your Own Adventure. And I realized that's what I want couples to do. I want them to get their finances in a space, in a place where it's working for them towards whatever dream they have, because money isn't the goal, it's the tool. And when you have that clarity, it just makes it a lot easier. So I'm really excited that this is coming out. I can't believe June 13th, but it's been a whirlwind, but I'm so excited. This is like the hardest thing I've ever done in terms of writing. It's so different than writing articles, and I've written other like ebooks, and I've done the podcast like script week after week. But writing a book is so different. But I will say this: I've learned it's less about me, but more about who I'm serving with this book, and I've been humbled by the feedback, and I'm very grateful for it.
Hey, Elle, this has been a real pleasure. We really appreciate you being on our podcast. We're both huge fans. Everyone go check out couplemoney.com and the book coming out soon. Is it out yet? Where can readers learn about it?
So you can pre-order it on Amazon right now, and then it will come out on paperback and digital on June 13th. And just to let everybody know, if you go to couplemoney.com/jumpstart bonuses, if you pre-order and you send me an email with the receipt, I'll register you for free for the course that goes with the book, because I think there's a lot of value, and I think a lot of millennials, we tend to just absorb information in different formats. So I'd love to help people out and walk them through the book.
You heard it here. Elle Martinez, Couple Money. Pre-order the book. Thanks. It's been a real pleasure.
Thank you.
Thanks for listening to Millennial Money Minutes. If you liked this podcast, please leave us a review on iTunes and subscribe. If you want us to cover a specific topic, use #MillennialMoney on Twitter or visit millennialmoneyminutes.com.